Happy Flosstube Friday, friends. My name is Kari. This is Tiger Lily Designs. Welcome to Flosstube, episode number 97. Yay! Welcome. Happy Friday, friends. I just want to let you know, I should probably not call this a Flosstube. I should call it KnitTube or YarnTube or all the things that have to do with yarn and not so much cross stitch. It's been a yarny kind of week for me. I do have one cross stitch whip to share with you, but the rest of the table is full of yarn goodies. So, in case you're here for just a floss tube, I will show the stitching first, but then as I love to do, let's run through the table of contents. Although I kind of just did. It's yarn, and more yarn. One whip, made some progress, was hoping for a finish, didn't get there. That's okay. I do have a knitting finish. I have a knitting new cast on, 2 new cast ons, some knitting haul, a project bag, all the things. Went down the rabbit hole and I'm not mad about it. So that's that. All right, friends. So I hope you had a great week. It's like I said, it's been a week since I was here. I love to come back on Flosstube Fridays just to share with you what I've been up to. The rest of the table is full of keepers. That's just all there is to it. So between making keepers for the April Club box, which is, by the way, going to be bonkers awesome. I've just been busy. So let's dive into the stitching, shall we? I think this one's going to be short and sweet, maybe. So this was a new start from last week. It is called Sing After the Storm. Fantastic. I have learned that this is actually like a 5 or 6 part series. Totally didn't realize that. I mean, I thought it was kind of weird that there was other things in the picture versus the one thing that was charted. This is what's charted. But then there's these other motifs. Well, this is available via Evertote's website. And come to find out, there's like a 5-part series. I don't know if I was supposed to stitch on this if this fabric was supposed to be for all 5 parts. I mean, I put it in the corner, but I won't be doing them together because I didn't realize that till after the fact. So this is what I worked on. I am using, this was a kit from Evertote. Like I said, it's kitted up with Roxy Floss Co. fabric, linen 36 count, as well as all the pretty flosses. So I did iron it, just so you know, there's that. I'm putting it on the keeper. So I did get to the colorful bird, and this is what I got. Like I said, this was a hope. If I had focused a little bit more yesterday, I probably could have got this one knocked out, although the bird's, it takes a lot of color changes on that one. But instead, since the weather was so nice, we're getting a little tease of spring here in Mount Vernon. And so I sat outside because the bugs aren't out yet. So it was great. I can't really stitch out there, so I can knit. So there you go. So that's my only stitch. Sorry, not sorry. Okay, so, but if you know, on Patreon, we've been doing lots. I did my Beanie-A-Long, wrapped that up this week. Speaking of Patreon, let me just show you the one thing that is kind of haul-like, but kind of not. So my sweet friend, Christy, from Stitching with Yarn, she is the one, I didn't bring it. Looks like this, right? It was my beanie. I used her colorway called Sugar Crush. She has an Etsy shop. I would definitely link it down below. Beautiful indie dyer from Oklahoma. And so I had gotten one of her colors. It was called Sugar Crush. That's the one I used for my Beanie-A-Long. Well, she was so sweet. And you guys showed her lots of love during the Beanie-A-Long and curating and collecting some of her handmade yarn or hand-dyed yarn. She sent us 2 giveaways. So the reason I'm telling you this is because there's still time. I'm not pulling the winners on Patreon until March 19th. So if you're participating in the Beanie-A-Long, make sure you pop on over there and look at the listing. But I just wanted to show you, these are 2 new colorways. One is available, I think, still in her shop. The other one was a one-of-a-kind, so you can't get this exact one unless you win it, but there'll be something similar to it. So this one's called Hibiscus Flowers. Look at those yummy, yummy colors. Pinks and greens. Oh my gosh. And it's so bright and yummy. I mean, so these are both DK weight because that's what we use for the beanie, right? So 100% superwash DK. And this is the one-of-a-kind color. But oh my gosh, look at those. I mean, these colors are just... I love it. I love color. So this is, these are the 2 that we're going to be giving away in the Patreon for the Beanie-A-Long conclusion. So keep your eye on that. I will be announcing some, maybe the next, what I'm going to call Make with Tiger Lily. You know, we made the Beanie-A-Long. Everybody learned. We have lots of fun friends. I didn't ask them if I could share, so I'm not going to share like their pictures here because, you know, some people don't want to be on the YouTube. But I had so many, I mean, it fills my heart when I get these messages from my stitching now knitting friends showing me pictures of their beanies, and they're so excited that they have it. And I mean, that is exactly why I do this, because I just love enabling, and I love enabling even more when you guys can now be knitters too, because I have to have more knitting friends, right? So I don't know I have a couple ideas of what's next. The problem is I have too many ideas and not enough time to do them all, right? But we will be doing something next because it was so much fun. So just stay tuned. What's coming up next? I'm not going to make any promises what it is, but it's just going to be super fun. So, but let me show you some of the other things that are in my knitting haul / starting pile, right? Okay. All right. Knitting new cast on number 1 is using this beautiful, so it's already all caked up. I showed you guys, this was part of my Nashville haul from Bliss Yarns in Tennessee. I did have somebody ask me, and I have Googled, they don't have an online shop that you can shop from. You could totally call them and buy some yarn from them. Like if you saw something that you wanted to, or you just, you know, plan a trip when you're going over to Tennessee. Super cute shop. So this was called Making Tracks by Junction Fiber Mills. Now this is hand spun up in Vermont. It's called Vermont Vice. I don't know if it's up in Vermont. Let's see what it says. Junction Mill is a small batch wool processing mill in the heart of WRJ. I don't know. WRJ started by 2 sheep farmers, friends, Amanda and Peggy, established in 2020. White River Junction. That's what WRJ stands for in Vermont. I was right. Okay. They have a great online shop too. So you can just get so many squishy yarns. But I showed you guys this last week. I had gotten 2 skeins of it. And, you know, Shelly and I had tried to get the ones that matched. So you can see when you kick them up, they don't exactly match, right? But I cast it on. I just couldn't resist casting on. Now I don't have a picture because my pattern is, I didn't print the cover page because that's a lot of ink, and so I didn't do it. So this is the PDF from Ravelry. It is the Andrea Mallory, who is Drea Renee Knits, DRK, DKRD, yeah, that one. Andrea Mallory has a beautiful collection of knitting patterns, and is this the first one? I've certainly collected. It's kind of like chart collecting and stitching. I've certainly collected a lot of her patterns. I think this is the first one I've cast on. This is her Traveler Cowl. Now I told you guys a little bit of the story last year. Goodness gracious. Last week, Rachel from Floss Toss had done the Traveler Shawl. So, and used this yarn, this Vermont Vice. And I was like, oh my gosh, that is fantastic. So this is the cowl. So it's going to be more cowl-like, yes, you know, tubey cowly thing for the fall. I don't need it. I mean, spring, it's warm, but it's just knitting up beautifully. I'm trying to figure out which is the right side, which is the wrong side. Okay, so I'm learning lots of things. It's one of those things where I have to pause my knitting, go to YouTube University, look up some random stitch that is called for in the pattern, like, right? Because there's a lot of things that are not knitting and purling in this pattern. So there's a lot of learning, and I'm okay with that. It's fun. It goes a little slower because I have to learn, but I'm liking how it's turning out. I think this is some kind of, maybe this is called an I-cord. I don't know, but this is the pretty edge. So I think this is the part that is going to be exposed, and this edge is not quite so pretty. So I think we're going to be, because you are going to have to stitch them together to make the tube. It's knit flat. You block it flat, and then you kind of, I don't know, maybe you Kitchener it together. I don't know. I haven't gotten that far. This is as far as I've gotten. But this is just beautiful. This hand spun yarn. It's magic yarn. You get all this color and this variegation and all the things just with the knitting and the purling and all those funky stitches. So I do have to keep track. What I did want to show you is I showed a picture. Hold on, hold on. I'm trying not to show you the pattern. So this is what I had to do to keep track of all the things. So don't be afraid of making notes And especially because I walked away. I started this, I don't know, 5-6 days ago. Haven't come back to it because it definitely takes full concentration. It is not a mindless knit. And so I have to chart and grid and X and all the things, but that's okay. It's slow and steady and I'm loving it. It's knit on big giant needles. Well, not giant, but they're US 6. So just kind of what we use for the beanie. Fantastic. But this is my interchangeables, my Knitter's Pride day-night ones. I showed you guys that during a needle walkthrough. So that was my new cast on in that. So I also have a new finish / cast on. Okay, so if you're new here, you know that I've got the beanies figured out. Crushing it, if I do say so myself. I've got the beanies. I've got 2 sweaters. A third one on the needles is actually went into timeout. We're not going to talk about that today. It's over there in timeout. But socks have been my nemesis. Okay, so listen, these are my first socks, and just like with my first beanie, I can see the errors galore. My first beanie has errors in drop stitch. I mean, I don't drop stitch because then it would unravel, but lots of oopsie daisies all over the daggone thing. But that's okay. I still wear it. I wore it this week on a walk because it's a lighter weight hat than anyway. But this is my first sock set. I actually have 2 socks. I learned a lot. I learned how to do first. You can see, so the heel was my nemesis, and you can see they don't match because I did one with Shelly sitting next to me, telling me what to do in Amana and being my, support vehicle in that. And then the other one, I tried to do by myself, and I think I got 90%. So it's not exactly the same. Lots of errors. There's a hole. I mean, listen, I'm not afraid to tell you, there's a hole. Can you see? Yeah, it's just tricky. And then my cat, and then toes. Toes are also, because I started, these are cuffed down. So my toes also do not match. They don't. Now, I have blocked them. I have sock blockers, right? I don't know. I put one on my foot. The first one was on my foot and it was magical. It's going to be great with Birks. It's short. I did this short, I probably am going to knit a little taller of a sock. These are a little too short for just like running around or my preference of what I would like. But to learn the mechanics of knitting a sock and getting it into muscle memory and figuring out tackling the heels twice, tackling the toes twice, I felt like a shorty was the better way to do it. So I have a size 9.5 foot. Yeah. So, you do these are fully custom. We'll see. I feel like I did them on a US 2. Now I know you're like, what? That's huge. I knit really, really tight. So I did hit gauge, which is normally like, these are just a vanilla sock. There's no pattern. It's just knitting around. I use 9-inch circulars, knitting around. 8 stitches. It's pretty standard gauge for a sock. And I hit it with my US 2 because I'm a tight knitter. But I don't know if the yarn grew a lot or what, but I haven't put them on again. I kept them on the pretty blockers to come show you. Maybe I'll put them on my feet later on. Either way, they're my first socks. I love them. I will cherish them forever. They won't fall off my feet. That's them. So from there, of course, I had sock fever. And while I was in Tennessee, remember, during the yarn thing, Shelly and I got matching, I think it was some mustache yarns. Totally can't find the yarn band. It's somewhere in the studio, but it's beautiful self-striping yarn, which is fantastic. It's magical. You get magic fun. And again, you don't do anything but keep knitting in the round. So I love magic yarn that does all the work for you. You don't have to change colors. Changing colors is this thing. But what I am doing is I went into my stash of fingering minis I got an Advent. I've gotten 2 Advents. And so I have a collection. I'm in the collecting phase, right? So I went into my stash of minis that I have from one of my Advents to find a mini that I thought, so look, it's like it was made for it, right? So I wanted my cuff, maybe my heels, maybe my toes, but at least the cuff to be, so here's my little shorty. This is a 10 round cuff. I am going to do a 20 round cuff on this one. So I did want my cuffs to have a little pop of color. So I cast this on just yesterday. Sweet little, this is a 1x1. So that was a 2x2 rib on the cuff. I'm trying something new. This is a 1x1. So that's where I am. I am learning, trying to figure out my magical sock recipe, my magical vanilla sock recipe, which is kind of like what I did with beanies. I just didn't bring you guys along when I did it. I just kept doing it and figuring out what was what. So there's a lot of vanilla sock. If you go on Ravelry, like vanilla socks is all over the place. Everybody's got a vanilla sock recipe and everybody does it just a little bit different. So, and then figuring out what's going to fit your foot, and based on, remember, there's 3 things. There's the yarn, the needles, and you on what's going to make your perfect sock. Well, I'm going to go ahead and venture to guess that sock that I made, although gorgeous, it's going to be too big. It just looks too big, which is fine. A loosey-goosey house sock, perfect, right? Slipper typey sock. But what if I wanted something a little bit squishier, a little bit tighter, a little bit more? So I did drop down a needle size. I did drop down to a 1.5. Again, I knit really tight. Now, most of them are US 1s, but I'm just afraid like that's going to strangle my foot. So I'm trying these socks. I'm going to try with 1.5 and we're going to see where we go. So that's where we are. I've got a cast on a cuff. So that's exciting. I am gonna, I have gotten it. Can I show you? Yeah. I have downloaded or purchased the heel toe do-si-do sock from Crazy Sock Lady. Super cute. So it's basically self-striping yarn, but then it gives you this little chevron thing. So it's just a matter of, I'm gonna tell you, it's some stitches, some alphabet soup, as I love to call it, that I don't know how to do. Gonna have to go to YouTube University, figure it out, because it's not just knitting in the round. This vanilla, the only tricky part was the heel and the toes. That was the only tricky part. The rest of it was just knitting in the round and round you go. The heel to toe, do-si-do has some, to make this chevron pattern with your self-striping yarn, which is magical, you do have to do some stitches. I don't know how to do them. I don't even know what those letters mean yet. So last night I read the pattern and I was like, well, this is going to be fun. It's going to be so fun. So instead, I'm starting with the cuff. I'm going to do a 20 round cuff on this one instead of a 10 round cuff. Again, just mixing and matching and seeing what works best. I think I'm going to end up, with a gaggle of socks until I get the perfect sock. And so I'm excited about it. I hope you are too. You can come along for the fun. Now, again, I showed both of these. I have 2 different medium, jumbo. These are my knitting drawstring bags. Love them. They got stuff in them. Those are my Crumb Tulip pink drawstring bags that I made. I'm showing you those as a little teaser. Maybe. Okay, last but not least, I did get some yarn haul, and then we're wrapping it up for the day. So I saw Ashley from Paper Crane Yarns. Paper Crane Yarns is a beautiful local yarn shop down in Alabama. My sweet friend Handmade by Sarah W. She went in there, she found them when she was looking for yarn for her beanie. Finished her beanie. It's gorgeous. But so she introduced me to Ashley at Paper Crane Yarns, and she's just the sweetest little thing. She's got a YouTube or a Flosstube or a knitting podcast. I don't know why knitters call it podcasts, but anyway, she's got a KnitTube, Flosstube thing on the YouTube. I watched her. She's adorable. And so, of course, I follow her on the socials on Instagram. And maybe about 2 weeks ago, she showed that this was a new cowl. Now, that's not really the best picture. Well, this isn't really a good picture either. But it's just a beautiful sweater. It's got a little bit of color work. Okay, so color work, in case you're like a totally new, you see there's a little bit of, you're carrying your stitches to give you the pretty floral motifs. And the rest is just, the sleeves are just going to be round and round easy. Most of the body is round and round. It's just a color work yoke, and then this scallop edge yoke, super pretty. And I was like, okay, well, if I'm ever going to jump into the deep pool and yes, jump into color work, this sounds perfect. And so I was perusing through Ashley's website and I was like, okay, so she was going to do sweater kits. First, she was doing in this like very mustardy / cerulean greeny type of color. And I was like, I need pink. If I'm going to do it, it needs to be pink on pink. Thank you. So she was so sweet. And she's like, oh, I think that's a great idea. I'm going to make sweater kits for that because I found 2 of her colors that she dyed that was in like her spring collection. And I said, this color and this color, that would be perfect. And so it arrived. It's right here. So I'm going to show it to you. This is as far as I've gotten, right? Okay. So we're going to be learning. So this was Ashley's sweater kit. Unfortunately, I'm pretty sure they're sold out right now. But maybe you can message her if you want to try color work. I would not recommend this to be your first sweater if you're, you know, but if you're like an experience, you're like, ooh, that looks pretty. She had some beautiful. And so it's a, you hold a fingering and mohair together to get gauge. So it's kind of a DK weight sweater. Now you could just do straight up DK, but I was like, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to, you know, go all in, right? So I've never knit with mohair. That looks super scary. So Ashley's mohair is a 70% kid mohair, 30% silk. Gives it that pretty halo. So this is her dried poppies colorway. It's just a very burgundy red, yummy situation. And I thought for the color work, this baby pink, so pretty. So pretty. So that is my sweater quantity kit, my little sweater kit for the Azucena, I think, by Claudia Q. This is available, patterns available on Ravelry. I will link it down below, but there's a knit along right now going along. I haven't started, obviously. I haven't even cast it on yet. But step 1 was collecting the materials. Check. Yeah. So that's what I have, friends. I know it's just short, sweet, lots of yarn, lots of yummy colors, all the things. So that's all I've got. I can't tell you what I'm going to do next week. Next week is actually Clemson spring break. So there's a small chance that I'm going to make it a Tiger Lily spring break because I can. We'll see. Follow along on Instagram. I am trying to come on and pop on and say hi every once in a while, but I'm, you know, head down, get her done in the world of keepers and other things that I can't even tell you are coming, but they're coming soon and I'm so excited about it. So friends, that's all I've got for you this Friday. Short, sweet, and there you go. So I hope you have a great week, great weekend. All the things, get your stitches in. So happy quilting, happy knitting, happy hooking, making, spinning, all the things that you are doing. And I will see you next time, friends. Happy stitching.